The activity of commerce is a major part of everyday life, and it is important for both suppliers and consumers to know about the Consumer Guarantees Act. The CGA is a legislation which provides protection to customers and prevents suppliers from cutting corners. The CGA applies to consumers and suppliers who acquire or provide goods and services. However, a supplier will only come under the CGA if they are in the trade of providing the good or service. This means that a supplier must normally be in the business or industry of providing goods and services. For example, a retail store such as PB Tech is in the business of selling computers and falls under the Act. A consumer is someone who acquires goods or services either by purchasing, leasing, hiring, or even being gifted the item from the supplier, and the consumer uses the goods or services in a way most people would use it. An example would be someone buying a microwave from No Leeming for their kitchen to heat up food. The CGA also covers companies as long as the company has also acquired the good in one of the ways listed and are using it in a way most people would normally use it for. However, the CGA will not cover companies if the goods are being resold, used in the process of making something, or used to fix other goods.
Guarantee acceptable quantity means where goods are supplied to a consumer, the goods are acceptable quantity. Second one is guarantee fitness for a particular purpose. For example, if consumer goes to the mill to buy a vacuum cleaner, then the cleaner must be able to achieve the purpose of vacuuming. Next, guarantee the goods comply with description. If the good not correspond with the description, consumers will have a right to redress against the supplier. And then, guarantee that goods comply with sample or demonstration model. The consumer will have a reasonable opportunity to compare the good with the sample. Guarantee as to repair and separate parts, such as consumers buy a phone. If something goes wrong within a year, the manufacturer will provide a free supply of repair facility and parts. The last is express guarantee. Manufacturer must honor express.
Under the Consumer Guarantees Act, if the good can be fixed, it should be fixed. If it cannot be fixed, it can either be replaced or refunded at the purchase price. Whichever option that is offered depends on the severity of the issue. However, there are some exceptions to when a business must provide a repair, replacement, or refund. For example, if the customer does not listen to the advice given or causes the problem either accidentally or intentionally. Essentially, if the consumer does something to cause a flaw, then under the Consumer Guarantees Act, the seller does not have to provide a repair, replacement, or refund. Contracting out is when a written agreement allows a business not having to meet the requirements under the Act. Certain standards have to be met if a business wishes to contract out of the Consumer Guarantees Act. They have to be dealing with another person or business in trade, with both sides in agreement that the Consumer Guarantees Act will not apply. It also has to be in writing, and there has to be a legitimate reason for the seller and the buyer to contract out. If this is conducted orally, or if contracting out itself isn't mentioned, the CGA would still apply. Certain attempts to contract out of the CGA results in the supplier and consumer being in breach of the Fair Trading Act. The penalties for this are fines of $200,000 for individuals and $600,000 for companies.
Small to medium enterprises need to ensure that they meet the guarantees specified in the Consumer Guarantees Act. If not met, remedies must be given to the consumer. The most basic remedies for a faulty good are fixing the product, replacing it, or refunding it. However, if the fault is serious and the good cannot be repaired or is a safety risk to the consumer, they can choose to get a full refund, a replacement at no extra cost, or keep the faulty product but receive compensation. In contrast, for a business providing services to consumers, there are differences in the practical consequences. Remedies available to consumers for services is receiving repairs, compensation, or refunds. However, if you as a business refuse or delay, the consumer can either employ someone else and claim the cost from you or cancel out of the contract and refuse to pay. Another important practical consequence for products and services that needs to be considered is consequential loss. On occasion, a faulty product or inadequate service can cause damage or loss to a consumer's other belongings or property. If this occurs, the business must compensate the consumer for the damage.